Welcome everybody to this session on the new Global Skills Matrix. Helen Monument and I are absolutely delighted to be sharing information on this groundbreaking new global framework for career progression for assistants. And we hope that it's really going to change the landscape for assistants and the way that their companies work with them and value them and understand their roles. So I'm going to kick off this morning by getting Helen to introduce herself, and then we'll move forward.
Thank you, Lucy. Hello to everybody. Great to be here and to tell you all about the Skills Matrix. I'm Helen Monument. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a career administrative professional. I've been in almost every role for the past 30 years, from receptionist to office manager in some very large international companies. The last one was at Shell. And for the last almost a year now, I'm the chairman of the World Administrators Alliance, which is bringing you the Global Skills Matrix.
And for those of you that don't know me, I'm Lucy Brazier. I am the CEO of March & Publishing, and we publish Executive Support magazine. And I've been involved with the World Administrators Alliance since 2015 on the committee, although I'm not doing that anymore. But I'm absolutely delighted to be able to help the World Administrators Alliance to share the message about this really wonderful piece of work that they have done. So let me get Helen then to explain to you a little bit about what the World Administrators Alliance is, for those of you that don't know.
Well, the World Administrators Alliance is a trade association, a non-profit, and we represent administrative professional associations and networks across the globe. The Alliance is responsible for the World Administrators Summit, which you may have heard of, which is a working meeting. We like to think of it as the G7 for assistants. It's held every 2 years, and we bring together the leaders of those associations and company networks and industry stakeholders, and we discuss the issues that are affecting all of us in this profession. Some of the topics that we've handled already are the image of the profession, harassment and bullying in the workplace, diversity, inclusion and belonging, and the professionalization of the role. And from these discussions, reports are published with recommendations for associations and networks to take up and put into action for their members, and also for individuals to use in their own organization.
That's really wonderful. And the number of countries currently that are involved, I believe, is 28, 29, something like that.
Yes, we had 28 countries represented at the summit that was held earlier this year, and 64 delegates representing all those countries. And together they represented the voices of over 200,000 administrative professionals, which is pretty phenomenal over the whole world.
It really is. So this is truly global. And I know that they unanimously signed off this career progression document, didn't they?
Absolutely, yes. Yes, it was well presented, well prepared. It's a phenomenal piece of research that we did, and everybody was right behind it. And Vicky Faint and her team did an awesome job getting it all finished on time. And we're taking it now to the next step by having it beautifully marketed and bringing it to you.
Fabulous. Okay, so then you mentioned research, and this all began in 2015, so it's been 6 years in the making. Do you want to talk us through some of these findings? Because it was quite shocking, wasn't it, some of the things that came out of this research?
Yes, I mean, just look at these numbers. We surveyed over 3,000 administrative professionals across the world, and this is what they told us, that we have over 160 different job titles for the work that's being done out there. It's not surprising, therefore, that our role is misunderstood. 58% felt that they were being underutilized. 73% felt their organization didn't understand the role, which is really scary, because who would dare to put their hand up within their organization to say, do you really know what I'm doing here? I don't think you do. And 60% 6% felt there was no opportunity for career progression. Now, the global skills matrix is going to bring clarity and awareness for those doing the job and for organizations, HR departments and recruiters. This has never been done before. And this is the reason why the global skills matrix is such a game changer.
And certainly the companies that we've taken it to already to sense checking it, to look at sense checking it, are doing backflips about the potential of using it within their businesses, because for the very first time, as you say, there will be total clarity around what the career is for an assistant, but it also helps with all sorts of other things, which we're going to come on to. So then what is the opportunity? Well, as I see it, the opportunity is finally for recruitment agencies, for HR when they're recruiting staff, for executives, and for assistants themselves to really understand that this is a career and it's not a job. And it's also a huge opportunity to me. At the very core of it is the performance management piece, because I think that's something that businesses struggle with a lot too. And we get approached as a magazine a lot by companies saying, we're looking to restructure our assistants, we don't know where we need to start. Can you give us some idea as to how we can do that? And how do we sort it out so that actually the assistants that are working for us feel that they do have somewhere to go within the company and that they are able to be excellent at every single level? Because that's, I think, what we're striving for, isn't it, Helen? To make sure that each business is able to have a world-class administrative function that is underpinning what it is that the stakeholders are needing to do.
Absolutely. I mean, the opportunity is huge. The 5 levels that we're going to show you mean that there are no more grey areas about the role. So whatever country you're in, what industry you're in, whatever sector you're in, you will be able to find and identify your current role, and your executives and HR departments will completely understand the tasks and the skills that you have or need to have to be the best that you can be for your company in that role, and for the next step on the ladder as you progress and increase your competencies that are needed for each level.
Yes, I think it's very important to stress that there will be lots of assistants that don't want to get to the upper levels, and that actually it's as much about excellence at each level, so that you have your own journey and you feel that you have got self-actualization and that you have been able to perform to your very best, but within what it is that you want to do with your career as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're not trying to push everybody up the ladder, and not everybody wants to go up the ladder. But you, as you say, Lucy, you need to be comfortable in your role. You need to be competent in your role. And this matrix is going to show you what skills that what the skills are that you need to do that level to the best of your ability.
Fantastic. So then let's talk through the purpose a little bit. Helen, please take over.
Well, it's a conscious career choice. This is what the World Administrators Alliance is on at the moment. We're doing an awareness campaign championing the role as a career and not just a job. We think that word "just" should be banned from our vocabulary altogether. It will allow you to envisage a career path, to manage your performance, linked to KPIs, as Lucy said, with the salary expectations that go with the role. So HR will be able to see where they need to invest in training to fill the gaps in your development, either for your current role or for a future role. And it puts you squarely in charge of your job description. Now, we've put going to talk a little bit about job descriptions in a moment, and we've suggested some role profiles which are linked to the main report if you need some help in defining your job description more clearly. And certification was part of this original project, but we discovered that it was such a huge task because there was just too much data, too much diversity in what's offered across the world. So we will be coming back to that. We will be coming back and asking you for that information.
I think that's important, isn't it? It's a living, breathing document. So obviously this is a role that is in a constant state of change. And this is a screenshot as to where we are now, but especially with everybody returning to work and discussions over hybrid working, I think the skill sets that assistants are going to need moving forward may change, and we will obviously be revisiting this on a regular basis to make sure that it is correct for the time in which we're working.
Yes, absolutely. Now, the benefits, going on to the benefits of the matrix, Lucy, if you will. You can see obviously what's on the screen, but we just want to stress that professionalizing and increasing the value of the role as organizations begin to understand the potential of an effective administrator. And this is really at the heart of what we're trying to do here. It becomes a more viable and structured career choice, as we said, gives you that framework for anyone wanting to change their job. So if you're a level 3 assistant in the United States or in Africa or in Australia, everybody will understand what it means to be a level 3 assistant or a level 2 assistant. It paves the way for development of more internationally recognized credentialing, qualifications and certification, specifically for administrators. And administrators, HR department will be able to use this framework to determine the career pathways, as we've said, and the performance expectations and the salary expectations. We didn't include salaries in Matrix because that would have just been an impossible task, because there are so many different levels in countries, depending on your culture, your business, and the sector that you're in. Our survey showed that many HR departments and executives don't know what they need when they're hiring an administrator. So it provides clarity on that. It shows you what training is needed to make an administrator move from one level to the next, if that's what you desire to do, as well as actually putting the onus on the training community to show what level that their training should be aimed at. And it delivers the scope for organizations to maximize the performance and the utilization of its administrative professionals. Now, I know, Lucy, you talk to trainers all the time, and this is going to be something completely valuable for them as well, isn't it?
Yes, very definitely, because for us, we're going to have to say, well, this is a course that's aimed at a level 3, or a course that takes you from a level 3 to a level 4. And, you know, the other thing is, I know we're talking salaries and saying that we can't put salary expectations into place, but actually many of the recruitment agencies do a salary survey on an annual basis. And what we're hoping is that they will be able to now say, well, for a level 2 assistant in the USA, this is what you can expect if you're in a major city, or this is what you can expect if you are in the Midwest, for example. And again, maybe there's a salary survey going on in Uganda, and that will be totally different, but it would also be saying, well, at a level 2, you can expect this, and at a level 3, you can expect this. So we're hoping that it changes the way that language is as well. Certainly the HR departments that I've spoken to have been saying, oh, thank goodness, it gives us a rubric, which means that we're able to say in our job role, in our job advertisements, this is a role for a level 4 assistant. And then everybody that is applying will know exactly what that means. It means also that you're saying, Helen, that the executives don't know what they're employing for quite often. Well, HR will be able to put the matrix in front of them and say, what is it you need? And they're going to be able to say, well, actually, what I think I need is a level 3, or actually what I think I need is a level 4. And then it just cuts through all the nonsense. And then there is also a task matrix that runs alongside it, isn't it, Helen? And that is giving the tasks you can expect at every level for the person to be doing, which helps to put together job descriptions, because obviously the job descriptions that are out there at the moment on the whole are very generic, with that line at the bottom that says, and anything else we might like to throw at you. And I think having those tasks in place is going to be crucial, because how can you possibly manage your career or your progression unless there's something to measure against as to how well you're doing based on where you're meant to be currently. And I think we're going to go on now, aren't we, to talk about role profiles and job descriptions and why it's so important.
Yes, absolutely. Again, the question is, who's in charge of your job description? I think it should be you. How are you measured? Your opportunities are being diluted if your role is not understood or if it's undervalued. So who writes those job adverts and what are they based on? Often it's, as Lucy said, an out-of-date job description, one they just pull off the shelf every time there's a vacancy. So poor role descriptions all add up to undervaluing the role that you do in an organization. I mean, if organizations want to get the best out of their executives, they're going to have to also want to get the best out of their administrative professionals.
I think it's such an important point, I think it's such an important point, and this changes everything as far as that is concerned. It's so rare I come across an assistant who says that the business has bothered to put together a proper job description for an assistant, and absolutely it should be your responsibility to do that if they're not doing so.
Yes. So we have actually linked some role profiles to the main to the matrix so that you can have a look at those and see how they can help you to create or improve or make more, bring more clarity to your own job description. We're obviously not prescribing a particular job description for a particular level because every organization is different, but it will certainly help you to make your own role description or job description clearly understood by everybody.
Yeah, really important. Okay, so let's move on to the actual skills matrix itself then, and just talk about how we have formatted it in the first place. Because as you say, we didn't put job titles in there, mainly because every business has different job titles, and it was just getting so confusing. Between 2015 and 2018, when we met in Frankfurt, we did so much research into this. And as Helen said earlier, there was 160 different job titles. And, you know, you in Britain have got, for example, a personal assistant and an executive assistant. And then in Europe, it's usually management assistant. And in America, a personal assistant is somebody who looks after somebody of high net worth or a celebrity. So the term there is usually administrative assistant and executive assistant. But we're starting to get administrative business partners and you know, so many different titles. So actually what we decided was we didn't want to put you off because you would look at job titles and go, well, that isn't me, this doesn't reflect who I am. So what we're hoping is that businesses will map what they have already to the different levels that we have got. So obviously the list that we've got, which we're going to show you in a minute for the skills matrix, is not definitive. There will be things that you will probably want to add in there, and the same with the tasks. But the thing is, we're hoping you'll see very clearly the difference between each levels and therefore where you sit. And the other thing is, some people have said to me, well, you know, what am I then? Because I do all of the level 3 stuff and I've got 3 or 4 things on level 4. So where do I sit? Am I a level 3 or a level 4? Well, the truth is most people will fall between 2 of them. But until you have the skill sets that are under level 4, in that example, you haven't got to be a level 4 assistant. You're doing some of the things that are listed there. So you're in transition between one and the next. And that's where training comes in. That's where you're going to need to go and get the training to make sure that you're upskilling. But Helen, do you want to talk us through the 5 different levels and how it works?
Yes, we have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Couldn't be simpler, of course. Starting with entry level. So this is this could be somebody who's coming from school or college, finished their education and is just starting off in the role. It could also be someone who's returning to the role and who wants to hone up their skills starting from scratch again, or somebody coming in from a different industry even and learning the role for the first time. And these are all task-based. Then we have level 2. Again, you're reactive. You're doing basic office tasks, and you are You're getting to know how the office works. People are giving you work to do, and you're responding to it in a reactive way. Moving on to 3, transactional and strategic, you're really starting to get good at what you do. You're moving from reactive to proactive, so you're thinking ahead, you're understanding, you're anticipating what it is that your manager or your executive needs, and you're working more, starting to work more as a partner with them. A lot of assistants can get stuck in this role because they just don't know how to move on or ask for more responsibility or get on to the level 4. But you have more freedom and flexibility at this level. Level 4, you are fully proactive. At strategic, your responsibility is increasing. You're more autonomous. This is where you're the full strategic business partner. You have your own tasks and responsibilities, and basically you're at the top of your game at level 4. Now, level 5 is, yeah, I suppose you could say this is the pinnacle, the chief of staff role, which is a relatively new role for a lot of geographical areas. It's not for everyone to get up to this level, and not everybody has that ambition to get up to this level, but we wanted to include it because we see this more and more as a role that's developing. You are at this level, as we're going to show you in a moment with the task and the skills, you are running the office of the CEO. So this is when you really develop into a leader.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting because I think if you work your way through it, entry level, you know, obviously somebody who just needs to get to grips with the way that an office works, probably the modern office works. The level 2 to me is what you would kind of consider a traditional secretary role to be. So being told what to do and probably doing some diary management, some email management, that kind of thing. But the difference to me between a level 2 and a level 3 is really clearly summed up with an example of calendar management. So at level 2, what you might find is that somebody says, can you find me half an hour for a meeting? And you would find half an hour and put them in. Whereas level 3, you'd be looking and thinking, oh, okay, so how important is this meeting? Does it need to be half an hour or could it be 20 minutes? And you're starting to question and prioritize before you put it into the calendar. And you're right, Helen, I think level 3 is very definitely where most assistants get stuck, but probably because either the business doesn't understand how to use them properly, or because the assistant themselves is nervous about stepping into the level 4 role because they see that they're comfortable at level 3, they really understand it and they don't want to have to step into the strategic. And there's nothing wrong with that. But actually, a lot of businesses don't have a level 4 strategic level at all because they don't understand how to utilize their assistants properly. And if they did, I think the role would be far, far better valued. And level 5, you know, I don't necessarily think that the chief of staff role is for an assistant. I think it's not a glorified assistant role. It's as different as saying, well, are you an assistant or are you a head of PR? It's totally different skill sets. It doesn't mean that an assistant can't get there, but I think really it's so important to include it because right now, because there is no career progression, quite often companies are saying, well, we'll make you the chief of staff. And as usual with this profession, there is so much confusion around it, and quite often titles are thrown in there rather than giving somebody a pay rise to make them feel like they've been promoted. So we wanted to make absolutely clear what a chief of staff is and what it should be and what the difference is between 4 and 5, because otherwise what you find is, and certainly a lot of EAs are coming to me and saying, well, I don't understand why they've been promoted to chief of staff, because actually what they're doing is exactly what they were doing before. It's just they're now seen as more senior, and that isn't what chief of staff is at all. So let's just provide the clarity so that everybody is clear at this point. Now, let's go on and have a quick look then, and just so you know, we are going to go into each of the levels in more detail, but I did just want to give you a snapshot of the skills matrix and the task matrix so you can see how simple it is to look at and to understand how the transition works from one to another. So here's skills, and you can see, as Helen said, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's got the skills that you should have underneath it. It isn't a definitive list, as we have said. What it is a list that is clearly showing you the kind of skills that you're going to need that make it easy to map what your company has already to this. Am I right, Helen?
Yes, absolutely. And of course, you take the skills from level 1 with you to level 2, from 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and so on. So if we were to add all the skills that we receive from our survey, then you'd be looking at something that was just ridiculously unwieldy and far too big and far too complicated. So we've brought it down to these bullet points. And of course, when you're talking to HR and maybe your executive, if they're the kind of person who just says, give me the bottom line, then this is the bottom line. You show them the bullets and they understand it immediately. Otherwise, they're going to lose interest if it's too complicated.
Yes, we wanted something that was going to work for the be quick, be fast, be done people. Yes. And then you can see the tasks that fit underneath that. So again, a really easy document for them to look at and to have a snapshot as to what we think it is that you should be doing at each level. Okay, shall we look at each of the levels in turn then? And Helen, maybe you'd like to talk us through them. And you can see that for each level, we have put what we think the skills and the tasks are side by side. So it makes it really clear.
Yes, now I'm not going to read these off one by one. You can do that yourself, but it shows a level 1, as I said, entry level, task based. So people coming into the profession as a student or coming back from maybe a break in the career, coming back to start again at level 1. You're learning to work in the office. So you come with a basic education and you're putting it all into practice. So there's all of these different tasks that you can see and the skills that you need as well. One thing that we included, firstly, at this level, that was really, really necessary, we felt, was emotional intelligence. You need that from the get-go. It's no good getting to level 3 and thinking, okay, now I think I need to be more emotionally intelligent. This is, with our profession, you need this right at the start.
Very definitely. And actually, our research showed that assistants, on average, have 18% higher emotional intelligence than anybody else in the office, which I think is really interesting. Okay, so let's look at level 2 then and how it changes.
Level 2, it changes because you're learning to be proactive. You've got all your skills and tasks from level 1. You're taking them to level 2. This is where you're becoming really proficient in the office. You're understanding what it is to manage your time, to prioritize. You're starting to make decisions about your work for yourself. Ethical and cultural awareness also comes into play at this point. And you are scheduling and prioritizing your own work. So you're starting to think about doing your work better, how you can do it, how you can improve yourself. You may even be supporting teams, not just working on a one-to-one basis. So like HR or finance or sales or marketing. And you're learning to juggle and to multitask at this stage.
Fabulous. Okay, so then level 3, it really goes up a gear with level 3, doesn't it?
It does. You're going from reactive to proactive. You're starting to learn how to be strategic. And something that's really important is at this point, you may decide that you want to focus on specific areas or develop particular strengths that really interest you. So if you're looking to become a leader in the future, this is where you start to perhaps mentor and coach others, which will help you develop your leadership skills. You're learning about delegation and how to bring on other people by encouraging them and delegating some work to them as well. So you can see the tasks get a little bit more complicated. There's a lot of managing in there and looking after other people.
Okay, and then I think it's the biggest leap actually of all of them from level 3 to a level 4, because at level 3, if you've mastered your craft as an assistant, you are doing pretty well at a level 3, but level 4 means that you really have to step up into leadership, and it's a whole different set of skills.
It is, and you're at the table. You're at the table with the leadership team, so you have a voice. You're not just there to take the minutes. You are autonomous. You're working side by side with your executive, learning to develop to be that strategic business partner that we're talking about so often. So you're becoming the trusted advisor. This is where assistants need to step up.
Yes,
and
very definitely.
Definitely, yes.
Yes, and it is just so totally different to level 3, really, because it is all about working on your own, and you are able to be totally autonomous if you need to be. Okay, and then let's go on to level 5 then, because I think level 5, again, as I said, is a totally different role. And you can see here are the skills. And to me, the point with a chief of staff is that a chief of staff and an EA and a CEO are actually a really powerful triumvirate when you get it right. But if you don't, it just causes confusion for everybody within the business. So to me, a chief of staff is somebody who is working with the CEO, but very definitely not in the same way as a chief operating officer would. A chief operating officer can work totally on their own without a CEO being part of the picture, whereas a chief of staff needs a CEO in order to be able to do their job. So let me give you the 3 different areas and how that works. So a CEO tends to be facing outwards and going and taking the business into the outside world and creating opportunity and new products and new revenue streams, and is leading. The EA is managing them on a daily basis and is managing the day-to-day office and making sure that that functions properly. And the chief of staff is facing internally into the business. So they're looking at where there are frustrations. They're looking at where maybe processes and procedures are not working properly. They're probably a really trusted advisor to the chief executive and will help them to prioritize the work that they're doing. And a really, really good example, I think, as to what the difference is between an EA and a chief of staff is if I was to say to the 2 of them, and I have to say I haven't got a chief of staff at the moment, but having studied this in some depth last year, I'm feeling increasingly that I need one. If I was to say to a chief of staff and to my EA, next year, I want you to plan for me at this point what events that I will speak at. My chief of staff would go away and probably look at the last 3 years and where I spoke in the last 3 years all over the world, and would work out how much money I made from each of the different engagements, and would then work out how much it cost me to get there, and would also look and see where there were relationships where maybe I needed to speak for people for free because it was beneficial. They would then bring it to me in a research document. We would agree what it was that I wanted to do next year, and at that point they would take it to the EA, and the EA would do all the planning of it, all the booking of it, all the making sure that I had the schedules put together properly, probably the putting together of contracts for me. Can you see the roles are totally different? And it's just about understanding the headspace that you're meant to be in. 2 totally separate roles, but absolutely phenomenal if a business has them both working together with the CEO.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you look, just go on to the tasks next, Lucy, then you'll see that the chief of staff keeps the CEO on the right track. You're the sounding board. You have the insights into the team. You give them clarity. So you're running all these projects, you're totally autonomous, and you're the stunt double, if you like, for the CEO. So you're speaking on their behalf, and you know what keeps them awake at night, and you're there to make sure that they are focusing on the strategic direction of the company.
It's interesting because I work very closely, quite often with Anne Hyatt, who was chief of staff at Google. And, you know, she was off in Korea at the last Olympics negotiating deals for YouTube on Eric Schmidt's behalf for licensing for sporting events that weren't being shown on television. That's the level of a chief of staff. And actually, I'm so delighted that I have very recently shown this to Hallie Warner as well, who I consider to be one of the real authorities on the chief of staff role. She's really made that her own. And the two of us were sitting there going, yes, and is that right? And we went through it, and she absolutely signed off on all of this and said that she thought that this was absolutely correct. So I was thrilled to get her endorsement of it as well. Okay, then. So let's have a look at this lady, Sarah Richardson. Isn't she phenomenal and just so positive? Explain to us who Sarah Richardson is, Helen.
Oh my goodness, she is she's based in Kenya, in Africa, but she works all over the world, and she is the person who tells HR, certainly in Africa, how they should get their act together, basically. And we're so happy that she's been supporting us with the skills matrix, because she understands what it is that HR want and how HR works. And she's given us this wonderful quote, which talks about the stakeholder goals and the KPIs to the business. So this matrix ties in to all that and will create a world-class administrative function.
I'm very delighted also that she has agreed for us to put together a letter which we're going to be able to take to our HR leaders and which we will make available to all of you, because I think particularly with HR it's really important to get the language right, and Sarah really understands that. We understand the concept, but actually if you're trying to explain to HR what it is, it's very, very important that that language is the language of business and HR. So you'll be able to lift that and literally just use that in order to send the skills matrix on. So, Helen, we need their buy-in.
We do. This has to be, it is a global project, and it will be rolled out as a global project. We need your buy-in. We want to be able to tell stories at each level. So we're looking for people to help us, who will volunteer to put their hand up and say, I support this. I see myself as a level 3 assistant, and this is why. And we want to for anybody out there to get in touch with us if they're willing to come and help us to spread the word and to spread the messages by just recording some of their own stories about what it means to them to be at the level that they are and how the benefits they see from the skills matrix.
I think it's interesting that in the past, what has happened in businesses is that the assistants have tried to push up and say, actually, we need to explain to you what an assistant does. And it very rarely works because HR go and they benchmark. So the whole point with this is that it is a global movement that's coming in from the top that is pushing down, so that with one voice right the way across the world, we're talking about what the global skills matrix is looking like and how that is going to impact career progression for the profession globally. It's the only way we're going to achieve it. And actually, if you look at other professions like engineering or accountancy or whatever, and HR, and they only got theirs quite recently, the skills matrix concept is something which the world of work really understands. So having our own is about time that we did it, I think.
It is, absolutely. So we have a long way to go with the way that we want to communicate this, obviously, and it won't be for everybody. We will have the people who will see it and get it and love it, they will believe in it and they will want to support us. And you will have the haters, people who will not like it, they won't touch it. Absolutely fine. That's up to them. And we have the skeptics, and the skeptics are the people we need to persuade. And how are we going to do that? We're going to do it with some creative storytelling. We're sharing everything about what it's all about, the marketing, the communication, how it came about. We have a dedicated website for the skills matrix, and that will include not only the letter for HR, as Lucy's just said, but the executive summary. There will be a slideshow for you, and the messages that we need to communicate. And just moving on, messaging is extremely important.
Yes, I think so too, because if we don't have clear core messages and guidelines, then it's not consistent. And if that's the case, we lose the power. What needs to happen is that the messages that are shared with HR are shared in exactly the same way, right the way across the world. Because if we want for everybody to understand what each of the levels means, so that we are able to change job, not just locally, but nationally and internationally, then those messages really need to be out there. And we are working with some extraordinary companies who are going to help us to cascade this down to their clients. There is going to be a huge push when we launch this. We do the hard launch in September. But equally, we would love to hear from you. If you are somebody who takes a skills matrix and implements it within your company, or even gets HR to agree that you're going to map what you've got, we want to be able to share that with other people. And the reason for that is because, for example, supposing I am sitting here in Spain where I live and KPMG have decided they're going to adopt it. If that then gets shared on our website, it means that people in other countries where KPMG are based are going to be able to see that and go, oh, actually, if they've already agreed it in Spain, then maybe we'll try and talk to them about it in Sydney or in Hong Kong or in, I don't know, Dubai or wherever it happens to be. So really important that we are keeping a close track as to where is adopting it. I think it's going to be core to what we're doing, but you need to stick to the messages.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to be doing a lot of storytelling, as I've already said, but the consistency is very important. So what are the next steps? What's going to happen? The full report is already available. We have, as I said, an executive summary, press releases. There'll be a document on how to use it and some brand guidelines, because obviously the Global Skills Matrix is a copyright of the World Administrators Alliance. What we'd like to have is feedback, certainly from you. We are going to be translating the versions. We've already had people working on translating into German, Spanish, Portuguese. There is, of course, a difference between English and American English. A lot of spelling changes, so we don't want people to think we don't know how to spell. So we will be doing both versions for that. And yes, it's a living document. So it's not something that's just going to be written in stone when we produce it. It will be constantly being updated and amended. So we're looking for your feedback. As Lucy said, we will also show on the website the companies that have decided to adopt it, and hoping that that is going to encourage other people to want to look at it as well, other companies. This is why we believe that it's going to be a document that would change your life. This has never been done before. It's something completely new. It's not complicated. We could have made it far more complicated, of course, with all our research, but we believe that it's simple to understand, it's effective, and it will have a huge impact on administrative professionals all across the world.
Yes, we're so excited that you are on this journey with us. And of course, if you have any questions or if you need any more information about it, or if indeed your HR department is wanting to speak to somebody about it in more detail, where can they contact us, Helen?
They can contact us at my email address, which is chair@wa-alliance.com. But on the website, when we launch, you will certainly see it all over social media and through our direct mailing to our summit contacts. But all the contact information will be on our website as well.
Yes, and I am certainly more than happy to come and to present to any HR departments that might want to ask more questions on behalf of the WA Alliance, and indeed I'm already doing so, as is Helen, right the way across the world. So please do reach out if you feel that they need a nudge in the right direction, or if you don't feel equipped to be able to take it and to present it to them and they're requesting it. So thank you so much for joining us and for listening to our presentation today. We hope you're as excited as we are about the possibilities that this is going to create. And all it remains for me to do is to say thank you very, very much to Helen, not just for presenting today, but for driving this immense and extraordinary piece of work through. It's been 6 years in the making, but I think it's well worth waiting for. And we look forward to making contact with you in the near future.
Thank you so much, Lucy. It's been a pleasure, and it's a huge team effort. A lot of work has been put into it by so many people, and it's just so wonderful to have seen this develop over the years, and now finally it's here. We're really, really excited to get it to you as soon as we can.
Thank you.